Hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia and I am an indie romance writer to be, I hope, sooner rather than later, but that is what today's video is about. So this is my 6-month update of my journey to publishing. I have been writing for about 20 years now. I did the math a few months ago and I was like, yep, since college. It's about 20 years with like the actual intention of getting published. I've gone through a number of changes. I've written about 10 full manuscripts by this point that I have considered like these are the works that I would like to eventually publish one day. I've switched from young adult to fantasy, eventually to romance, and that's been quite a journey. In the end, all these works are works that I like loved when I first wrote them, would like to eventually rewrite or revisit along the way. But right now I'm focusing on what I'm calling my Tangled Hearts series. And that's the series title that I gave it once I like figured out like what's the theme that kind of runs through all these stories. Right now it's a trilogy. I would like it to be at least 6 books in length with a few novellas and stuff in between, which is one of the main reasons I chose indie, was like not only the freedom to craft the world that I wanted to and craft the kind of series that I wanted to read, but also after querying for 2 different books across like about 5 or 6 years, I decided that if the response I was going to get was, I cannot be your champion, that was like the common rejection, like form rejection that I received, was like, I cannot champion your work right now. Like, you have an interesting story, but I cannot be a champion for your work right now, and stuff like that. And whatever the reason, I decided to seek an alternative path and one that I'm happy with. However, this is a very lonely path that I'm taking and a very sole business proprietor type of path. So all the work is on me or on whoever I contract to assist with. And because this is going to be my first book and my first series overall, a lot of the work is falling on me because right now, until I can see an investment to like reinvest into, making like paying for contractors and stuff, I'm trying to use as many of the skills that I possess to DIY this process. So long story short, Tangled Hearts is my first series. Before You Called Me Baby is book 1, and book 2 and 3 are already written and in various stages of either marinating or editing. So this year, when I started 2025, the intention was to publish this year, and it continues to be the intention. I have had to make a few modifications to my timeline. I kind of knew this would happen, but I didn't really, I think, plan for it. I did not expect how hard I would take like the events happening from January onwards. If you know, you know, in this country and all that. I have had conversations with this within my writing group, and it almost feels like the same energy that I felt during the first few months of the pandemic, where I kind of froze a little bit. I originally started this book 1, Before You Call Me Baby, in 2019, and there were like 4 to 5 months where I could not write after we went remote, after everything was happening. There was just too much going on, and it's not been as bad. Like, I have continued to be able to edit and write, but I've had delays, and it's just been like a low energy overall. I'm trying to overcome that. You cannot chase motivation. You kind of just have to seek consistency, and I'm trying to live by that rule. But it has been a challenge, and I won't lie and say that it's been all easy peasy and, rainbows and roses. It's been hard to write and focus when everything seems to be on fire. But I kind of have to keep going, because who else is going to tell this story but me? So I have some stats that I wrote down in a card regarding where I am in this process. So my initial goals for the year were to have book 1 publication ready to go out in either like the late October or early November period. That's my goal, because that's kind of like the seasonal energy of the book. Not that it's necessarily a fall book, but it takes place during the fall, and it just made sense to me to put it out during the fall. It doesn't have to be read during the fall. It's not like a Halloween book or a Christmas book or something like that. It's just like seasonally, that's when this story takes place. Figgy, no, he's doing bad things. So that was my initial goal, to just put it out at that time, which meant that I needed to backtrack and have the draft finalized, proofread, have covers made, have the LLC created, start all the profiles, all the other back end business that happens with creating an indie business done by June. That has not happened. So that was my initial goal, was like, do all this within the first 6 months of the year. It is not July as I record this. It is July 6th. And I do not have that. Like I said, did not anticipate that like fight or flight freeze. And I definitely went into freeze mode for those first couple of months. I also had a very bad chronic pain, chronic migraine flare that happened in February into March. And I've talked about that in the vlogs if you follow along with my like general lifestyle experience journey. So I essentially lost almost 2 months. Let's pause. Let the cats do their thing while they make noise in the background. Okay. So we're back after that brief interlude. So as I was saying, I started this process back in January. Like I said, didn't really expect that, physical reaction to happen, and lost nearly 2 months where I wasn't really working on either of the books. I was barely getting by and just kind of had to let go of most of my expectations and just take things slow. I didn't just, completely not write or edit, but I did scale back significantly, like to bare minimum levels. I got back to the drafts. I did actually start reading book 2. I like to let the book sit for a little bit and then come back to it, read it like a reader with an eye towards where I want to edit, and then, kind of like plan out a full edit. So I did do that. That's one thing I will say, that was what got me through those first couple months, was reading the drafts. So I read book 2 because my plan had been to, at that point, I considered book 1 to be done with my side of edits, and I was going to hire a proofreader. After doing some back and forth, I found a couple people I wanted to work with. Wasn't sure if I could afford them, so I thought, let me try to see if I can self-edit, self-proof this and get it to a state where I could clean it up as much as possible and save a little bit more money in order to then hire the proofreader. These two things were happening at the same time. So on January 6th, coincidentally, I started reading book 2 and started working on edits. So book 1 was on hold at that point, and I was just sort of like doing research for proofreaders. Book 2, I started reading, started creating that outline, and I split the eventual edit into 2 parts. So part 1 was the larger, more significant edits. So like this was the developmental stuff, the plot edits, the, adding characterization, stuff like that to it. So that was actually, round 1 was 191.5 pages worth of edits. And then I had round 2, which was the smaller stuff, like the little details, the sentence level things, the smaller changes. And the plan was to clean that up, polish it up, and send it out to my reader for feedback. I have about, I have my writing group who, several of them have offered to do some beta reading. And I have like a person who I trust, her knowledge of romance and stuff like that. So she read book 1, she gave me really good feedback. And so she's somebody I will return to. I had a few other betas for book 1 that were not great experiences. And I've had hit or misses with betas, like either not following through or flaking out on me, and like not, it's weird. I'm always a very understanding person when it comes to this. I'm like, I know you're doing this out of, the goodness of your heart. I'm not paying you. I don't have these expectations. But if you keep telling me that you're going to read it when I'm trying to give you the out. And I'm like, it's fine. You don't have to. And then you just kind of keep lying to me. I do find that upsetting. That did happen with a couple of people. And so I'm a little leery of working with betas. I have considered hiring some betas, but since right now I want to put the bulk of my money into like the real beefy stuff of the process, I'm not sure I'm going to go that route right now. But I might in the future. I think once things kick off, the dream, the goal, the ideal would be to have some ARC readers, or like a street team or some early readers or whatever that would be willing to give some feedback. But that is for a future. That depends on how things go. So I started reading and editing and doing all that mess on January 6th. And so far I have completed 39 hours worth of editing on book 2. As I was going through that, I, like I said, decided, you know what? I'm going to go through the book myself, see how it looks. I tend to be a fairly clean writer, so I will say that. I had already gone through multiple like checks, and I use Pro Writing Aid. I use, obviously I'm using like basic spell checkers. And I also have, a background in English literature. I have a background in English grammar. So like I'm solid, but everybody makes mistakes. So I was like, I don't think this is going to be awful, but let me read it. And so as I'm reading it, at first I was like, don't do it. Don't dive into another edit. You told yourself this was it. And that, of course, was a lie. So I did start finding some areas where I was like, you know what? I still have the time to make this better. I still have the time to make this stronger and make improvements. So I basically started doing another round of edits on book 1. Not significant edits, but just significant enough that they would, I hope, make the story stronger overall. And so it felt like it was worth it to me to have to push back a little bit on my timeline in order to make a stronger book. So that's where I'm at right now. So right now, I started on April 30th after I made that decision where I was like, you know what, instead of putting my money towards a proofread that maybe will not be what I need right now, let me take a review. Decided not to pay the proofreader at that stage. It has also given me time to save up a little bit more, so maybe I will just be able to hire that proofreader in the end after all. But for now, I've been editing for 60 hours so far and have edited 238 pages at this point out of 450. So oddly enough, it has grown. Even though I've cut out a few pages, it's actually grown a little bit, even though I had not planned on it expanding at all. But I do think book 1 is stronger for it. So, on the one hand, it slows me down, but on the other, I do think I'm getting a better book out of it. And at this point, I am an unknown. I have no pre-orders out. I haven't really done any heavy marketing or anything. Haven't really gotten started on that because my goal had been to start, pushing out marketing a couple months before the book goes out. Since I don't know when the book will go out exactly at this point, I am not doing that. I do have, like a Pinterest page that is live. I have the website, which has been live for a while. So if you do want to find info on book 1, I will probably be updating the blurb in the next couple of months, but there is a blurb out. So it's ameliagracewrites.com. And you can find all my info about the Tangled Hearts series thus far, as well as playlists and all the stuff. I have the Substack that you could sign up for as well. Eventually I do plan to make a newsletter, like a proper newsletter, so I can send out cookies and all that mess. But right now the Substack is serving its purpose as the place where I just post updates and stuff like this, where I just do monthly recaps of where my writing is going and what's going on. So right now, I'm not where I thought I would be 6 months into the year. I'm not sure that things will be able to go live in October/November as I anticipated or planned, but I can still put out book 1 by December, I believe. I hope. I won't say for sure because you never know what's going to happen. Things are very kind of up in the air with my day job right now. Not because of my position or anything in that sense. I'm not losing my job. That's not what I mean. But we're changing leadership. Policies have changed with regards to our working from home options, as in we will not have them anymore. So my schedule is going to look a little bit different. My awful commute has always had an impact on my writing, and again, I'm leaning into consistency over motivation, but there are days where exhaustion kind of like takes the wheel, and I need to find ways to fit in the writing where I can. I have been making use of my lunch hour and my break times to either read or edit a little bit. So if I can maintain my current pace, I did take a 2.5 week vacation, which was very helpful in moving book one forward. Like there was a part where it just felt like nothing was changing, like I was stuck and like I'm not advancing. And then, after being able to put some, concentrated effort into it, I saw the pages flowing, and finally I was like, yes, this is actually happening. I'm more than halfway now. Now I feel like I can see the finish line and it's not so daunting and overwhelming. Like I said, I'm also halfway through book two. Book three is waiting for the future, but my goal had been to put out book one in 25, book two in beginning of 26, and then book three later in 2026. I think that timeline is still somewhat realistic. It may shift slightly, but I don't think I need to scrap it. So that there is that. But I've been fitting in at least a 25-minute sprint at work, like I said, during my lunch break or during my just like regular breaks that I fit in throughout my day. And then a 25-minute sprint at least at night. I would like to increase that to at least an hour, because I noticed that it takes me about an hour to edit around 10 pages. So if I've got a 400 some odd book, even if I go at a 10-page a day pace, that is pretty decent progress, especially since now I'm halfway through. In theory, based on my calculations, I should be able to finish editing book one in about 20 to 25-ish days, accounting for the days of when I have like a migraine attack or something, or when my energy is really low. I always, create buffers. But over the next 20 to 25 days, I believe I will be done. I expect and anticipate that I will be done. We'll put it down to the world. I will be done before the month is over. So right now it's, like I said, July 6th. Even if I take, another 20 days, I'll still be within July. So I hope that within a month or at the end of the month, whenever I do another like follow-up update or, post to my Substack or something, I will be able to say that book one is complete. At that point, yeah, I am now, I feel like I'm in a better place than I was in February to be able to pay for an actual proofreader to do a proofread. Especially if the person who I wanted is available, I need to reach out to her and see if she's available. But even if it costs me what I estimated based on her fees, I should be able to afford it. If I cannot afford it, then I will do the very best that I can to proofread it through all the systems that I have available to me in order to make sure that it has as few of typos or, missing words or errors as possible. I will say that so far in the reading, I have not found an excessive number of typos or errors. I think so far, because I tend to like circle them, I think I have found less than 20 so far, and more of those have actually been like missing words where I think the track changes maybe ate the word. Like that happens sometimes where like as I'm doing track changes, like it seems like a word disappears. So that's more of my concern, is like making sure that nothing glitchy has happened. So if I cannot afford a proofreader, I will either find some help or use the resources available to me. At this point, I might actually ask my boyfriend to read it, because he read the last book, but he's never read my romance. And he has offered to read it, so I might just ask him like, hey, can you go through this? Just look for the words. You don't need to know how plot works. Just look for missing words or words that are in the wrong place or miswritten. So that may be, the final resort if for whatever reason, it's too expensive. Because I do also need to consider the cost of starting the LLC, the cost of paying for the resources I need in order to make the covers, because I will be making my own covers, at least to start. I would like to one day be able to afford illustrated covers, but right now I don't have the money to really pay for a good artist, and I would want to, find somebody good to illustrate the covers. And my character, is hard to find like existing vector images and stuff. I have looked through like folks on Etsy who sell like the vector art that you can reuse and stuff like that and like license out for covers. Nobody has really created a character that looks like mine, so I would need to get a custom anyhow. The main character of book one is a biracial, tan-skinned, curly-haired Hispanic woman, and I have not been able to find that as your typical vector art. So that's been a difficulty. And yeah, so, and also my male character is blondish, and there's a prevalence of dark-haired men in romance. I haven't found too many like dirty blonde vector arts either. So yeah, right now I'm gonna go for the kind of cover that leans into imagery as opposed to the illustrated, and then maybe purchase some stock photos for like if I want to do like a different Kindle Unlimited or Kindle style book. I still haven't quite figured if I want to do Kindle Unlimited or not. I'm weighing my options. I don't want to be tied to Amazon only, but I know that for someone with no fan base, it is a good start and can provide some exposure. I know that it's not the same exposure of like, 10 years ago even, but it's an option. So I'm still weighing my options there. Debating. I could go into KU for 90 days and then go wide. I don't know. I am trying to consider all my options and see what happens. And then of course there's like the thought of what if my book gets pirated, which happens a lot. What if I get banned from KU through no fault of my own because somebody pirated my book? So many thoughts. That's one of the reasons, excuse me, that I wouldn't want to like limit myself. I had initially liked the idea of going wide first, but I'm also realistic and realize that if I want exposure, sometimes it's easier to get that exposure. I don't know. These are thoughts. These are thoughts. If you're an indie author and have like experience in one direction or the other or both, like feel free to drop some comments down below and give me your advice. I am happy to hear anyone's experience with this. I've obviously, like been connecting with others and doing the research and listening and watching a lot of vlogs just like this about writing from folks who are further ahead in their indie careers. But it's still a lot to like wrestle with. So yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice that I made the day that I decided that traditional publishing was not going to be for me, at least not at this point. I would and always did want to eventually go hybrid if that was an option to me. So we'll see. Maybe one day. Maybe one day it'll happen for me. But otherwise, I will be doing this mostly on my own. So wish me luck. But that is everything. That's where I'm at right now in July. Like I said, I'm not quite where I wanted to be at this point in the year. But right now, I think that what I need to focus on is producing the best product I can, writing the best story I can, and if taking a little bit longer to polish that out leads to a better result, then so be it. I'm here for it. We'll figure it out and deal with it as we go. So thank you for watching if you made it this far. Thank you for listening to my ramble. Feel free to drop a little emoji down below, like maybe that little like writing pen emoji or one of the like girls behind the computer emoji. And let me know how you're doing. I will check in with you guys in the next one, and have a great day wherever you are in the world.